For the past few years, we've been told that Disney Plus was the second place streaming service behind Netflix, and that surely Disney Plus would have a chance at overtaking Netflix. And perhaps once Hulu was acquired and those forces were combined, well, maybe that would actually happen. That was the marketplace assumption. Today, however, we're ready to report that no, in fact, Disney is losing ground, and now Amazon Prime Video is clearly the runner-up behind Netflix. Of course, that's all if you assume that we're not counting YouTube as part of streaming. But needless to say, Disney is now down, Amazon up, Jeff Bezos beating Bob Iger. We'll explain why this matters a lot right now. Hello folks, welcome back to the channel where we explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, break down the business behind what's going on with some of your favorite franchises. In this case, we're talking about Disney and the slide of their streaming service, which once upon a time was supposed to be a juggernaut, now dipping down to third even as we combined it with Hulu. Not good for Bob Iger, not good for those milestones, and we anticipate that the cuts are coming to try to make this thing profitable at any cost, and that cost will be low. Let's bring in the panel right now. Let's talk about Amazon Prime overtaking Disney, and now Jeff Bezos looking very dandy in his second place behind Netflix. Amazon just passed Walt Disney on an important front. Two fronts, I would say, folks. This, I think, is really big news. Nowhere else covering this quite yet, but they should be and they will be, other than we and the Motley Fool. Amazon just passed Walt Disney on an important front. Here's what it's got. When investors think of on-demand streaming services, Netflix is a top-of-mind name. Ditto for HBO Max. The Walt Disney Company's Disney Plus and Hulu platforms are high-profile platforms in the direct-to-consumer media business as well. All of them, however, may want to pay closer attention to an increasingly tough contender in the streaming space. Amazon's Prime has always captured more total view time in the United States than Disney Plus, but thanks to Prime's continued growth and Hulu's lack thereof as of late, Amazon's streaming service is now more popular than any of Disney's streaming brands, and this position change has implications for both companies' stock. It just keeps getting worse and worse for Disney. The data comes from TV ratings agency Nielsen and is plotted on the graph below. After a couple years' worth of progress, in October, Amazon Prime's total domestic watch time finally eclipsed Hulu's timeshare of domestic television sets. Both lost ground in November, but Hulu clearly lost a great deal more. In fact, Hulu's 2.7% of total U.S. television viewing time is the lowest the figure's been since early 2021. Meanwhile, Disney Plus continues to tread water around the 2% mark. Now, let's take a look at this. U.S. television usage time among major streaming platforms. In red and at the top, by far, is YouTube, the thing which you all are listening to right now, I suppose. And in terms of, get that off there, in terms of where it's at, well, it's more than 9% of all U.S. television usage is YouTube. Now, when you consider that not only is it up there with television, but also with every other device there is, you've got to say that YouTube is dominant. Thus, here we are. However, then you have in gray Netflix, and Netflix is doing just fine and dandy as well, landing somewhere in the middle of 7 and 8%. 7.4, we'll call it for right now, but again, this just on television, not including devices. After those two, so after YouTube and Netflix, you have to go way down. They are in a category of their own. Let's put YouTube and Netflix in their own category, and then everybody else is way farther down. Here's what we've got. Up until recently, Hulu was the number 3 spot. And remember, Jonas and I have been covering this at length quite a bit. And sometimes people don't really know why we're covering this so much, but this is the reason, is because Disney is purchasing Hulu, buying the last third of it, and Disney is subjugating Hulu to Disney Plus. What that means is they're integrating Hulu into the Disney streaming platform, and they're making Hulu, which was by far the more viewed streaming platform, they're forcing it to be now strapped onto Disney Plus as a way to lift Disney Plus and desecrate Hulu. Bad idea, I think, but let's find out how that's going. So you've got Hulu, which has dropped from somewhere around 3% of all of television viewing, perhaps a little bit more. Now it's down.
Why is Hulu not green? That just seems like
that's a great question. But trailing down towards the 2%, that's because it's financial people. They don't know these things. And then Prime, Amazon Prime, has now risen above Hulu and easily above Disney Plus. Disney Plus is still below 2% of all viewership on TVs. So, folks, that's one of the things that we need to always pay attention to is when we are talking about Disney Plus and Netflix, or Disney Plus and YouTube, or, Disney Plus is very small in comparison to the big dogs, okay? Disney Plus in comparison to YouTube is like a fifth of the viewership. Disney Plus, even less because YouTube is viewed on small devices so much more. But Disney Plus compared to Netflix is it's like a category difference, right? You're talking about orders of magnitude in difference. But Disney Plus is not going in the right direction. Take a look at the bottom of that chart. And what you see is that Disney Plus is sort of flatlined. And that is not where you want to be. Take a look at Netflix. Where did Netflix start on this chart? It started at 6%. Where has it ended? It's ending over 7%. Where did YouTube start at? It started at 6%. Where is it at? Well, it's basically at 9%. So when you're looking at this, Disney is just plateaued, except for Hulu, which is dropping. And what's that allowing for? Well, it's allowing for Amazon Prime, ran by Jeff Bezos, to now be easily in third place. And this will be, I think, a big story that we need to pay attention to going into 2024, is that Disney is losing ground now. Disney is easily in fourth place and not even close to the top two. Panel, your thoughts on this breaking news regarding Amazon Prime, now the third biggest streamer for viewership hours. And by the way, I'll say this as I wrap up. I find the viewership hours is far more important than subscriber numbers. And I say that because now we're going into an ad-based revenue system for all of streaming.
Right. Yep. Which Amazon does with their freebie service.
Hours matter now.
Super critical. This is where I always go, and it's almost like beating a dead horse. Also, by the way, Mac, who I would love to get on a video one day. Hulu's dip coincides with the price increase. Yes, it in fact does. Although I will point out that right now well, I don't know if it's still going on. I got Hulu with ads for a year for $12 for the entire year, as in $1 a month, $12 annually on that. So they really want people to get those ads. I would guess that a lot of that viewership on Amazon right now is free sitcoms that have ads on them more than anything else on their platform. And I also don't know if they are getting to count Paramount Plus through Amazon, or if we're just talking about Amazon only content, because you
wait a minute, Jonas, hold on. We breezed by something you said that's very important. Let's all recall that She-Hulk episodes, we believe, had the same budget. A single She-Hulk episode had the same budget as Godzilla -1. You're suggesting, Jonas, that these shows that you think are propping up Amazon, that they're free, that they're sitcoms that are pre-existent. So the only cost that Amazon has is the cost to host them.
Well, yes. Sorry, when I said free, I was meaning free with ads. But yes, essentially, they're paying for access to a catalog. So like,
okay, that's what I thought.
Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore. I don't know if those specific titles are on there right now, but I do know Night Court, the original Night Court, is on there, as well as Spin City, another Bill Lawrence sitcom. That when those things come out, they come out almost nearly fully formed, and then you can run them for 7 seasons because they're amazing. And hilarious. Those are the kind of things you find on Amazon. I'm not trying to shill for freebie, but I'm shilling for the concept here of create good sitcoms that people enjoy, comfort viewing, that they will come back to over and over again, and create enough of it that once you get to the end of it, you can just say, you know what, I really like that. My memory has faded just enough on what the first season of Frasier was like. That's Paramount, by the way. And you can start over again and get a similar experience, and just enough that you can be surprised by what's coming up next.
Well, culture, what do you think about this? Disney losing ground now, easily fourth place, now they're strapping Hulu to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and we knew the desperation move was coming with the Hulu, combination thing. You guys are going to cover that in depth in the next few months. I know they have to do it. They're trailing quite a distance behind. I have a feeling that Amazon is, if they keep Jennifer Salke out of the mix will continue to expand the viewership in the hours viewed of their programming with Reacher and things of that nature. I think that Netflix is a no-brainer when it comes to, leading the pack. I think all of us would agree. They had the model in place forever, have basically created an ad model out of it. They will likely surpass anybody's ad revenue, and be back and forth with Amazon. So
How
those
long
two
until
are gonna
Apple's
be
up there, though,
behemoth.
Culture?
The only thing that's the biggest platform out there is YouTube. YouTube, no matter what, on any device, is the biggest platform. I am guilty of watching YouTube when I have any kind of downtime.
Is that Culture? Is that because of the marketplace where anybody can produce content and it allows for people to come up with new ideas and new formats and new, what would you say, new shows
Yeah,
that bring forth truth in a way that you'll never hear on those other curated streaming platforms? What's
and
the
I think
special sauce to YouTube?
the special sauce to YouTube is that it's available to anything that you could ever possibly want. There are so many creators that are doing things that are from niche to broad. The spectrum of availability, the ability to see it anywhere, whether it be a phone, a tablet, a computer, a television, wherever. It's ubiquitous, I think is the correct word there. And I think that the appeal to anybody's sensibility is there on YouTube, even though to a large extent much of the content is kind of curated away from you so that you don't necessarily get everything that you want. But again, you hit the nail on the head. You can create I could show you guys how to build like armatures for animatronics on a channel, and I would have several thousand people that might be interested in seeing that or whatever. But regardless, YouTube is going to be the big boss. It's always going to lead in the ads category. And if they were to drop the censorship, they would be unstoppable as a platform.
Yeah, I would like to add to that it's authentic. Everything that you get from YouTube, for the most part, sometimes you get some stuff that's not authentic, but it's honest. What you get out of the mainstream media, you get a lot of you get a lot of spin, you get a lot of, like we talk open and honestly about Hollywood in a way that the mainstream won't. And a lot of people see what's going on, but there's nobody else talking about it if you go to the mainstream. But then you come to the pro channel, or you come to the DA culture, you start to see, oh, well, this is exactly how I feel. And so that starts to build the community, and that starts to grow YouTube, beyond what probably it would be if they, stuck to the mainstream, talking points. So I think that's another big reason why YouTube is taking off in the way that it is. And it's going to continue to do so because everybody's authentic. Everybody's honest. They're just giving you our opinions and our points, and you're going to start to see more, I think, entertainment, starting to move towards YouTube as well. So yeah, I think that YouTube is just going to kind of eventually take over most of streaming. That's just the way I see it.
To go along with Derek's point there, I mean, YouTube is also diversifying now. So they just spent $14 billion on NFL Sunday Ticket. That was a huge deal, right? So now we're going to have live sports on there. We have a lot of broadcasters of content that are going from the traditional linear outlets to putting their content on YouTube itself, which is kind of an interesting trend. We see like movies with ads available on YouTube now, so they're really diversifying. They're really kind of attempting to be in every single segment. It's an interesting philosophy. It's getting away from YouTube and becoming them too, but as neither here nor there. It is happening, so it's quite interesting to see how these other content delivery services have diversified themselves. Netflix is getting into gaming now, which is very interesting. But what is Hulu and Disney Plus doing? Not much. Just creating Disney Plus, creating mediocre shows, and Hulu gets the cast-offs essentially. Do we know, by the way, if this kind of downward trend that we saw in that graph there? I mean, how much do we want to bet that Disney might be intending for that to happen in some ways? Because they had to actually buy this thing from Comcast, and obviously the valuation, if it's as low as it can possibly go, that's better for Disney.
Yeah, you might have a point there. The valuation of Hulu is based off of a specific date that they agreed on, and I think
2022, I think, is when that date was.
I see, okay.
Yeah. But I want to say this before we move on, because I think there's a fascinating conversation here that I don't want to miss. And that is that I think this speaks to the democratization of the marketplace, and that if you allow for a free market, you win. And for all of the flaws of YouTube, and there are plenty, for all of the times that we hear about channels that have been, that have suffered and probably should not have, and there's no short supply of those sorts of situations. The fact that Nerdrotics and Geeks and Gamers and Critical Drinkers and Midnight's Edges can exist on YouTube, I think is the kind of reason why YouTube dominates. And YouTube should be aware of that and should know that, whereas you're not going to find anything like what we discuss on a Disney streaming platform, that it is YouTube's strength when it has a diversity of opinions and content out there. I'm not suggesting that YouTube should have content that is so overly abrasive that it trends into sort of extremist ideas. But what I am suggesting is that if you let the free market be the free market, then you will rise above everyone else just by virtue of doing that. And so I'd love to give the panel a chance to respond to that idea. And perhaps Disney could learn from that. Perhaps, I don't think they will learn from it, but if Disney were to have a diverse set of content, such as, Song of the South, put it back on there. Let's see what it was that's so terrifying and bad. By the way, I know it's not bad, but I think there's a more meta lesson to be learned. Panel, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this free market application, as we see, which is representative of YouTube, is really something to be able to empower creators to create content for this platform from a very diverse spectrum of different mindsets and philosophies. Is really quite stunning, actually, and it's interesting to see how YouTube has shifted away from that in recent years, and there's a big court case right now playing out with Rumble, and how they are alleging that YouTube has been demonetizing them, or I should say, not necessarily because YouTube owns Google. Google hasn't been referencing links via searches and so forth, and
I feel like this is Windows versus Netscape all over again.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, and then people are saying that, well, Google should be divested from YouTube. Anyway, it's a whole thing right there, and it's quite amazing to see this outgrowth of from this platform really kind of take off and really empower and fund so many amazing content creators to deliver you just amazing stuff that honestly you really can't get anywhere else at this point in time.
I just have to jump in here, and the way that Disney handles themselves when it comes to marketing materials and what they have on their platform, it's been so lackluster. The closest that they come to a real view of their company was the Imagineering story, which was Leslie Iwerks, who did this amazing documentary series. It might be the best thing that is on the Disney Plus platform. Prop culture would be right underneath that, as amazing things that they do that celebrate their company. And that is one of the reasons that I would subscribe to Disney Plus. I currently do not, despite the fact that I got to review it for the Everything Woke channel. I heard a quote the other day, and I didn't realize that this had happened, but it rings true. You look at all the things that Disney just released in their 100 years Steelbook collection, and it's like Beauty and the Beast and Frozen and Star Wars. Yes, of course, Disney and all of the effort they put into releasing Star Wars in 1977. Yeah, that's rich right there. Or Iron Man. And I think the oldest thing they have on there is, of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which got a 2023 remaster. But you think about all of the things right now that Disney does not have a 4K for, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or Swiss Family Robinson, or I don't think they have a 4K for Mary Poppins, even. They
don't have 4K for Tron Legacy. That only came out a few years ago, and that would be amazing to see in 4K.
Right, or the original Tron. But the thing that Disney really fails at is they only want you to focus on the very specific things that they want you to focus on right now. So Song of the South, I don't see that ever getting released in 4K by Disney. Now, I do realize there's like a Blu-ray that everyone's talking about, probably a bootleg. I don't think that Bob Iger is going to let that thing slip out. Disney
They've got
is
20
not
years, Jonas,
capable.
until that's free domain.
Well, yeah, and we'll see. And they're not doing much to stop people who are doing 4K restorations or anything like that.
Well, I'm just saying, in 20 years, which we'll still be doing this, I'm sure. In 20 years, it's going to be the last laugh we're going to have it, because it's going to be out there for everybody to watch anytime they want and realize, oh, there's nothing offensive in this. This
Right,
is
but
literally showing children of different races holding hands and walking together.
Right, and Disney on their streaming platforms, they only want the market approved. And by the way, the marketing department that approves these things, they are so cringy, and it's just everybody talking about what a great time they had on set. If they wanted to release a documentary on the troubled production of almost any of the recent Star Wars films, there's no way it would see the light of day. This is a company that likes to pretend that they have always done everything perfectly, unless they fire you from the company, and then they might comment some years later on, maybe Eisner was wrong, but we only want to use it to serve the idea that Iger is right. So the idea that YouTube exists and is able to constantly comment and have a historical record of what is going wrong with the Disney company, this is super important. More than it's we're over here and maybe we make a living talking about the Disney company. No, the important service that is being offered here is documentation of what actually happened, or at least an opposing view on what happened at the Walt Disney Company.
I would argue, Jonas, that this is where proper journalism is taking place. And that might also be why YouTube is at the top. It's not that YouTube is safe necessarily. I mean, we have to self-censor in ways that we should not. And folks will leave comments and say, "Pro, why don't you just get to it? Why don't you just say what you really believe?" And it's like, well, because I would like to be able to tell you what I really believe for years and years to come. And the only way I can do that is if I articulate it in a longer version, but which allows me to keep doing it. And so it's not flawless, but the idea that there are different views that are happening here, and that you don't have to be allowed in through the gate into the corporate mainstream media. I think that, I hope that there are challenges in the near future. I hope that Elon Musk delivers on what he thinks he can do with X/Twitter. I hope that it's a viable candidate to do what YouTube does. But until then, this is the only game in town for the scale and scope that we have and what needs to happen. And so hopefully that continues on, lest we become like the country in which children are run over by small attraction vehicles. But all right, folks, that's a wrap for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you loved it. If you did, consider clicking the like button. Share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Are you subscribed to any of these services? Netflix, Amazon, Disney, and what is your personal perception of them? We'd love to hear from you. So join the dialogue of the community and share your thoughts. And folks, as we always say as we wrap up here, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, keep having fun. And Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen.